Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
We have Daniel waiting in queue. Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
Daniel is our next speaker for the management and well-being portion. He is Australia's leading expert in leading with strategic empathy. Through his career working in some of Australia's largest financial service companies, Daniel Murray has seen firsthand that the most defining factor in any business is the ability to connect with people. Whether it is with peers, customers, or shareholders or employees, the ability to understand what drives people has become a critical business skill. With a degree in mathematics and an MBA, Daniel has a passion for helping business leaders. He's an expert in blending leadership, strategy, and emotional intelligence, working with many teams within companies such as Tyro, CBA, iCare, NSW Treasury, Macquarie Bank, AMP, and QBE. So get ready for an interesting, fun, and challenging session on how we can use empathy to build amazing advice businesses of the future. His session title, Why Intelligence Might Be the Enemy of Empathy. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you, Deb, and thanks to everyone. It's great to be with such a fine group of people. I want to start off with a pretty simple little question, actually. Niccolo Machiavelli once said that there's two forces that drive every human decision. Two forces. And they're probably not what you're thinking, given it was Niccolo Machiavelli. He said love and fear drive everything that we do. Every decision we make in business, in our life, is driven by love or fear. Let me show you a time when I was feeling love and fear in pretty high amounts. Now, that's my beautiful wife, Miranda, and our darling little girl, Zoe. The love part of this equation probably takes little explanation. The fear maybe needs a little bit. You see, Zoe was the result of 11 IVFs over a 10-year journey. Well, not really. She was just the result of the last one. The first 10 ended in failure. And up until this moment, I was terrified that this would also end in the same way. I'm fortunate to report it didn't, and we have a beautiful, happy, healthy little girl. She's 4. She's been very hands-full when we've been through the pandemic, but it's been amazing being able to spend and capture all these moments together. And I mean all the moments, even the not-so-good ones. Let me make that big and make sure you can see it. That's put her in the car after a bit of peanut butter, and that's going to come out at the 18th birthday. I think she's going to love when I wheel that one out for her. Well, what's this got to do with business and the way we do our work? Well, I was working with a CEO many, many years ago, and he said something to me that you might have heard before. He said, listen, Daniel, if you can't measure it, it doesn't matter. In business, this is something that isn't uncommon. I hear this quite often. But there was something about it this day, even for a mathematician like me, that just didn't ring true. I said to him, John, do you love your wife? He said, of course I do. You know that. I thought so, yeah. And so do you measure it? Like there's a spreadsheet somewhere, you're doing debits and credits, there's a graph, like you've got a number? Of course not. And even if you did, let's say you did all the measurement, you got the number 83. Would that tell me anything about your relationship? Would I really understand you? And the answer is, of course not. You see, what we too often get caught up in business about is the tangible sides of business. And they are important and they are there. You need to manage the numbers. You need to understand the budgets. You have to make sure your processes, systems, controls, all of those things have to work. It is important. But it's not everything. The other side of business is an intangible side, because humans love these intangibles: values, emotions, culture, relationships. These are vital in our lives, vital to our performance. But you can't measure them reliably, can you? And this is why understanding people is so important. Understanding people is making sure we can measure and feel confident in both the tangible and intangible elements here. And why is it so hard? Well, it's hard because while business is complicated, people are complex. You might have heard of this differentiation. Let me break this differentiation out just so we're clear on what I mean. Mathematics is complicated, right? Now, this is pretty, isn't it? I'm sure many of us want to just sit down with pen and paper and work through this, but I'll save you that. Maths is complicated. And what I mean by that is there's lots of moving parts, but it follows rules, pretty predictable rules. Like once you work this out, it's pretty stable. It's not going to do something crazy. Humans, not so much. You send a guy to the shops to get salad dressing, you don't know what he's coming home with. He walks in 6 hours later with a jar of jam and a six-pack of beer. And this happens to all of us, doesn't it? You walk into the shops, you've got a list, getting the stuff on the list, and you walk out with a trolley full of stuff you didn't need. Come home from Bunnings, I got a hedge trimmer, and wife's like, we don't have a hedge. Yeah, but it was on sale. And so what we mean by complex is for humans, a little tiny thing can have a huge impact or no impact at all. A really big thing can have a huge impact or no impact at all, and everything in between is possible. It can even change on different days. Our moods change constantly. Humans are incredibly complex. Inside your head is about 85 billion neurons connected through trillions of pathways. Your brain is the most complex system in the known universe. You've got one in your head. Lucky you. The challenge is we've all got one, and they're all different. And this makes understanding each other so much more difficult. And so I want to keep empathy really simple. Empathy is not going into all this intelligent spreadsheets and measurements and graphs. Empathy is quite simple. It's understanding why people do what they do. It's understanding what's going on inside of them. It's not walking in someone else's shoes. Controversial. I know a lot of people think this is the definition of empathy, right? But let me just challenge that. When you walk in someone else's shoes, whose experience do you have? You have your experience in their shoes. If we want to have empathy, we want to understand their experience in their shoes. And this is why empathy is so challenging. I was asked a while back on news radio, do we think that politicians don't have enough empathy? And it seems like a really easy question. I said, well, actually, I think politicians have a lot of empathy for other politicians, right? They need to understand what drives each other. They need to understand their loves, their hates, their fears. They need to understand other politicians really well, or they can't get anything done. I think what we think is that politicians don't have empathy for everyday people. But you show me what an everyday person looks like. This is the challenge we face. You see, we have brains that were developed in tribes. You used to be born into a village of people who were just like you. They thought your thoughts, danced your dances, sung your songs, and ate your food. Today, you are surrounded by thousands, if not millions of people who are nothing like you. And empathy is our ability to put ourselves aside and understand the experience of others. And it's something that in businesses we absolutely need to practice. It is a practice that all leaders need to develop, because there is no doubt that your team needs to be more diverse. You need to bring new people in, different people who see the world differently, who see the things you can't see. You need that. The challenge is you need to now understand those different people. You need to connect with them, learn what drives them, what do they love, what are they passionate about, what support do they need. And it's this last point around that support they need that I really want to focus on, because we are coming through one of the most challenging times in the last 100 years. The pandemic has really challenged us all, and will continue to as we work out how do we get through. And I found working in large organizations that they talked about resilience, but there was something about the way they were saying it that didn't really strike me as being as genuine or as useful as we need. So like many logical people, I decided the way to solve this is to write a kid's book. And so I did. And I want to share that with you now. A little kid's book called The Monkey and the Rhino. Here's the story. The monkey and the rhino, they lived around this tree. They had a great partnership going on. The monkey used to climb to the top of the tree and pick the young leaves. They were the rhino's favorite. And of course, the rhino would shoo off the lions when they came around to hassle the monkey. Good partnership, everything working well. One day, though, it rained and then it hailed. It had never hailed before. The hail belted down. After the hail had passed, the monkey was laying there battered and bruised and said to the rhino, Rhino, what have I got to do? That storm's so so powerful. I'm so hurt. Are you okay? And the rhino said, yeah, I'm fine. And the monkey's like, but why are you okay? What have I got to do? How can I get through this? And the rhino said, it's simple. Just got to toughen up and get thick skin like me. So the monkey thought about this. Okay, went away. He found some mud, some clay, put it on his arms, legs, body, baked in the sun. He couldn't climb the tree anymore, which was a bit of a frustration for the rhino. But you know, the rhino helped his little mate to be okay. The next day, the rains came again. Unfortunately, the rain washed away much of the mud and clay, and the hail belted down. Again, our poor little monkey was battered and bruised. He again pleads to the rhino, Rhino, what am I going to do? How do I get through these storms? The rhino says, you just got to toughen up and get thick skin. He was a bit sad now, a bit dejected, our little friend the monkey. So he went into the tree, he sat up there in the branch, and as he sat there, a little squirrel came out of a hole in the tree. The monkey said, Squirrel, are you okay after that storm? Squirrel said, yeah, I'm okay, thank you. The monkey's like, well, do you have thick skin? It doesn't look like you've got thick skin. Ah, the squirrel said, monkey, we can't all have thick skin. It doesn't work that way. You see, I'm small and I can hide in this little hole in the tree. But we're all different. We have to find our own way to get by. Now in the little book, they go on an adventure. He explores, he goes and has a bit of fun. And then works it out. The next time the storm rolls in, he walks over, sits underneath the belly of his friend the rhino. And the reason I wrote this book was because there's so many people out there who are bringing these diverse teams together and then telling them what to do. Instead of investing in the opportunity of empathy, the opportunity to understand different people, to build trust, to build curiosity, they bring in smart, different, creative people and say, okay, come in, we need your creativity. You've got to be here at 8. You can't use an Apple Mac. Please wear a suit and tie. They do everything they can to squeeze all of that creativity out of our jobs as business leaders is to help people find their path, to help our people find their path to success and coordinate this in a way so that we can all feel successful. There is no doubt we have to get the numbers right. There is no doubt we have to deal with lots of legal and political ramifications that flow into business. They're all very important points. But the hardest and most important job in your organization is understanding people. And this is where empathy can become the tool to help you understand people. Empathy is definitely my passion, and if it's yours as well, I'd love to connect and hear how you're leading with empathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. That was awesome. That was awesome. I love it. Especially when you talk about, you know, they want to encourage creativity, and yet they tell you when you show up, when your coffee break is, what you can dress, what kind of computer. Oh, yeah, that's conducive. I have a story about a folk song that I'll share with you during the discussion. But for the meantime, again, an awesome to the point presentation. And let me just, there is your certificate of appreciation, which will be emailed to you. And we will